Hello, everyone. Great to be back for another edition of Cantina Chronicles. This is an exciting one. We've all been waiting for this bad boy for a minute. We are going to review the first two episodes of the new live-action Ahsoka series. And review, I mean talk about. This will be our main heuristic for our conversation today. We are in daytime here under the bright twin suns of this biome. Pretty excited to talk about Ahsoka. How you guys?
A lot of sunscreen. You need a lot of sunscreen. It turns out.
Yeah,
two suns.
Two suns. Yeah, double it up. SPF 70. Let's go.
But we should really preface with sort of the approach that we know that the show is somewhat inside baseball. It's like got a lot of lore in it. It's just packed with lore, and it's kind of unforgiving with how it's doled out, and it's kind of leaves people behind who aren't super connected with Star Wars. So we'll come at it like in a way that I haven't seen Rebels in a while. I'm going to be an outsider. You guys are inside. You guys just did a rewatch, and we'll move forward with that. But what do you think, Adam? What are your thoughts?
I might actually push back on that a little bit. We're already starting, and I'm already disagreeing with what's happening.
There we go. Full Metal Adam.
And here's why: is because we have what we call a natural experiment going on with my wife, who has seen 0 minutes of Rebels.
I've had the same experience.
And 0 minutes of Clone Wars, and she was just like, I got it. Like Ezra's the MacGuffin. Like she knows general like stuff. So she's like Ezra, and she would stop and ask questions occasionally. I was watching that first episode. I'm like, half of me was watching my wife watching the thing.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm like, does this mean anything to you? Like how like checked in or checked out? And it's weird. We got done with the 2 episodes, and her overview is like, I think it's good. I like it. I like it a lot. And I'm like, I don't know how I feel. I very much feel like I walked out of episode 8 again, with that feeling of like, I don't know. I need time to process. That's mostly because of my emotional state right now. Yeah. But my point is that like she asked questions because she was interested, not because she felt lost in it. Right. Like she knew there was more, but she felt like I think it did a good job of kind of what Marvel sometimes does, which is like holds hands enough, but also rewards deep viewers with stuff.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think we'll get to that point where we can argue that I think Filoni did thread the needle in terms of making this feel like an organic continuation of Rebels as an homage to what the story so far, as well as onboarding new people. Like I really do feel like he intros everything very clearly, and it's like super fundamental with each character. It's like this person's missing. You know, they were greatly impactful during the war. You know, like they liberated Lothal, 7 years of liberation. That was basically the seasons of Rebels we watched. You know, it's like it's so cool to see that connective tissue. But at the same time, I think he does onboard people.
It's weird to hear my wife say the phrase "Lothcat."
Yeah,
because it's in the closed captioning, and she's like, because they're on Lothal.
My wife and my son both got disinterested with it just because so much lore dumps were happening. It was basically just nonstop right off the bat. Mm-hmm. It was like boom, 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 boom. This name, this person, you know, they did this, and it was just a lot. And I feel like if you've watched Rebels, it feels like, you know, season 5. You're just like, let's go.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're like, let's
go. I mean, it's a rare superpower.
For me, I was all in, but I do want to. I haven't watched it recently, so I'd love to be on the outside while we talk about this, being like, okay, like, do we think that enough people picked up on that, you know? So we'll go from there in terms of I haven't seen the series in a minute. So
yeah. I mean, honestly, I did, but it didn't really. I mean, I have an emotional connection to to the Rebels characters. You can't not if you watch a series, and then I've watched it 3 times, and it's just endeared all of those characters to my heart more. But I mean, he really did a masterful job of like Thrawn's a bad guy. I really think part of that is just the name. Thrawn is like when you just say Thrawn and you give it like a dramatic pause, you're like, oh, that's
exactly.
Whoa, okay.
Say it enough, you give it a sting, people know.
Which works, man.
And when Ahsoka comes up to Hera and she's like, "This map is the key to finding the last great Grand Admiral of the Empire." Like it was perfect setup for audiences to know that this is a Grand Admiral we're searching for in the unknown regions, and then Hera. You know, the sort of obvious next step is, could that mean Ezra's out there? You know, and I was like, boom, we're in. Like, let's go. We're going to find these 2 people. Let's go. You know, story just kicks off.
Yeah. And to kind of get back to your question, Grant, or kind of thought about like having redone a Rebels rewatch, I almost feel like that did me more harm than good in some ways. And personally, I'm not saying for anyone else, but like I love Rebels, and I watched it so closely this time and so near to this that when this started, when like Hera popped up, I'm like, oh, is that really Hera? Or when Sabine popped up, it's like, that really Sabine? Like, you know what I mean? Like, watching this, I think both those actors did such a wonderful job, and I came around to it. And then again, and I'm sorry, I'm going to keep using Carly, and we'll bring her on, I think, at some point, maybe after the season's over, to get her thoughts on it. But she was just like, I love these characters. I love these actors, having not seen them before, right? Because she comes in completely tabula rasa, blank slate.
Nice.
Loves what's happening to these characters, and I'm doing the over analytical. Like,
I know.
Does this feel like this character?
So I did this thing, and then there was I did this
Yeah.
thing with my wife, and then there was a meme about it 5 seconds later. I was just like, in like the credits, I was like, oh, that's this person, and this is going here, and blah, 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 blah. And then like, and someone made a meme of like Charlie Day in front of like the credits.
I saw that one.
Yeah, and I was, and Jenny just showed it to me, and I was like, oh.
Yeah.
But I couldn't help it. I was like, oh, just in case, like I didn't know. But I think part of it, I just like to talk to myself when these things are happening. I'm like, oh my goodness, that's happening.
Yeah, no, Carly shuts that stuff down real quick.
She's like,
I will ask the questions.
Sabine intro
You
might have
provide
been
the
more
answers.
powerful if you haven't seen Rebels, just given that
Yeah.
you know Sabine flies like a TIE Defender.
yeah,
Like take that on like multiple bases.
yeah.
So this is free flowing, especially more because I'm completely sleep deprived, folks. So sorry about my brain shooting off in random directions. So sorry / you're welcome. I kind of want to ask a question from like the immediate start of this entire series.
Yeah, I actually kind of wanted to go in order on this one.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah,
Well,
I
good.
did
So
too.
I
Yeah,
can
the whole
start
time.
off. First question, first thing. Crawl.
Yeah.
What do we think about
Vertical
having a
crawl.
crawl?
Oh, yeah,
and vertical crawl, but not doing like the crawl, right? Like it's. I got kind of.
It was so ironic. I was working on some super
Yeah.
in out text. I was working on some super in out text, and I was almost certain the show wouldn't have a crawl. And then a crawl started as I was just on my laptop working on something very similar, and I was like,
What?
Is this okay? Yeah, this is accepted. In science fiction, you need to catch people up, you know?
Yeah.
It
I
just,
have no
it's needed. I
problem.
think it's important, but it's
Yeah.
at the same time, it was a little wordy. It was a
It was a
lot.
lot. It was like 5 paragraphs.
I almost expected to the show just says the same thing over again. So it's kind of redundant, honestly.
It uses a similar format of the Lucas crawl with, I think, like you said, a couple extra paragraphs, but it does the capitalization trick.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, you are just doing it. Just do it. Can we just accept
And everything red text
that
and
Star Wars
everything
has a crawl?
coded red in this thing is Sith, and like part of this operation, part of Elsbeth's sort of like contingent, like everyone dresses in red, like there's a red set we see later in episode 2. It's like it's kind of all like pointing to possibly the Sith, and obviously the which is Dathomir, which super high fantasy elements. So this is a different breed of Star Wars. I mean, if you're coming to this thinking this is going to be Andor in any way, I think you're going to be turned off because it's full on fantasy. Like they've totally punched it.
Oh my gosh. Well, we could talk about the end credits are like a Game of Thrones copy.
Yeah.
So there's that. It's like just straight up like the music and everything. I've got a lot to say about Kiner, but I'll save that till later. Well, we'll just get to it as we go. But
do you want to do the crawl right now? Do you have it? I have it on me if you guys want to hear it.
Oh,
yeah,
sure.
I kind
You
of
wanna
do
read it?
actually want to hear it.
Yeah, I do. I haven't thought about it.
This is the crawl that Filoni went with. The evil galactic empire has fallen and a new republic has risen to take its place. However, sinister agents are already at work to undermine the fragile peace. A plot is underway to find the lost Imperial Grand Admiral Thrawn and bring him out of exile. Once presumed dead, rumors are spreading of Thrawn's return, which would galvanize the Imperial remnants and start another war. Former Jedi Knight Ahsoka Tano captured one of Thrawn's allies and learned of a secret map which is vital to the enemy's plan. Ahsoka now searches for the map as her prisoner. Morgan Elsbeth is transported to the New Republic for trial. And that's kind of where that episode of the Jedi.
That's a Lucasian crawl if I ever heard one, right? Agent, you're talking about evil agents, right? You're talking about the politics of it. You're setting it up. It's weird because what would have happened in the old EUs, this would have happened, and then they would have gone back to tell the story in the crawl, which we've already seen in season 2 of Mando, right. Which is odd. But it helped because Carly didn't remember any of these things, and I think I'm wondering if we're gonna get these crawls more often now because Lucasfilm is really doubling down. And that sounds negative, but they're really maybe planting their flag in these eras, right? Like they've gone through and built out the eras on the website. Like it is now, they're like, this is the thing. And I think what they realized coming off of Rogue One, even of just like people's confusion about time periods, like they're gonna have to do these stage setting beginning parts of like, this is in this era, this is what's going on. Everyone in, everyone good. Okay, let's go.
Yeah. And to start with, I mean, just speaking on that, I got something I didn't think, where we would actually essentially pick up where we left off in Mando season 4, 3,
right.
3.
Yeah.
3.
So it's like we're in real time pretty much, as far as I can tell.
Yep.
Because
I believe so,
you know, Elsbeth is captured. I wanted to go back to the crawl for a second though and speak to that and talk about the music. And Grant, I mean, I thought about you specifically, but Adam, I think you watch like old Japanese film too. But I mean, it was just the music and the text, the vertical crawl, I think was like very Kurosawa. And we know that like Filoni from the documentary has a little like Mifune action figure on his desk to like try to focus his Kurosawa. But that's
funny. I just watched Kagemusha the other night, so it's you know, becoming my favorite film of all time. But I do watch a lot of samurai films, and that's why I love this show. And I feel like that I come to this show for Ahsoka being like the ultimate samurai, like the Ronin, basically, not of the Jedi way, doing her own thing, not by the standard protocol of the Jedi. Like, I love Ahsoka. I just love that character so much.
Yeah. And so so the music plays a huge part in this. I mean, it is just like straight up like Japanese, like samurai philic music over the crawl. And then it just like seamlessly blends into like it gave me like Last Jedi vibes. The first scene was just like, you're already like dun 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 dun, like you're already in it. And it like really modernized Star Wars to like the most modern feel you could get. And they really just like, I really felt it's almost like Patrick. I'm waiting for like the actual vibe to set in. I loved how it started, and it was like very like lore. This is going to be spooky, dark side driven.
Oh yeah, there was like the war horns on Arcana. I was like, that music was awesome. I was like, let's do more of this. This is the Sith Empire I want to see. War horns and Sith riding to battle against the Jedi. Like, if we can key into that stuff that Kiner's doing in this, I think that'd be cool. Like, I think that's what they're doing with the past too. They're kind of setting up the past as sort of eerie and mysterious and spooky. This is sort of the tone that I thought could hang over the sequels. I was hoping for a darker sequel trilogy where like the music in this sort of captures that true darkness that sort of lies in the unknown spaces of the galaxy.
Yeah.
You know?
We are getting Dave Filoni's continuation of George Lucas's story. Right? I mean, he plays nicely with everyone's action figures, but like I was blown away by how much this felt like a Star Wars to me at times, of just like, oh man, you are setting up new characters, you're setting up the bad guys. I mean, we'll talk about how quickly they set up a hierarchy of bad guys in 2 episodes where you have to like get through like 5 people before you even get the Thrawn. It's wild.
I don't think we need Thrawn for a while, because we have the first episode's Master and Apprentice. We meet a new Master and Apprentice, and then we also by the end of episode 2 get the mirroring Master and Apprentice.
Oh boy, we're gonna have some conversations
of the good guys who we can root for, which it's very exciting. This is a very exciting matchup.
Yeah, it was pretty cool to see Baylan Skoll's character. He got his own hallway scene, which is great, and then Shin Hati. I mean, oh, dude. To our friend Ray, right? Like this man, it's just kind of it does hang over all of it, but he was so great. Like his like hallway scene
when he talked about his performance being Arthurian, you see it.
Dude, he's like, wearing like armor.
Screen, you're like, whoa, this is awesome.
It's very
like,
nice.
I love this whole style of Jedi. This is I've never seen anything like this.
I know, but like he's King Arthur, dude. Like it's I don't know. He is no Jedi, he says, but he's not evil. I mean, he's
more like Uther, like Arthur's dad or whatever, the guy who's kind of evil.
Yeah,
I mean, doesn't he very much feel like the ideal of the First Order? Right? Yeah. He wants order, right? And he's gonna get it through this unknown power. I can't remember what I just wanted to say unlimited power, but of course he didn't. At the end of episode 2, right? Yeah. But he doesn't seem to have like desires to rule the world, or rule the galaxy. He just seems to have desires for peace in quotation marks and order, right? He wants like the Jedi wants.
It's again very samurai film. He respects like the samurai way, and he sort of is just a Ronin of his own, with his own Padawan and sort of doing his own thing. And it's to me that's super cool. I'm like, this is awesome. I can't wait. But it's also flavored medieval with Rey, which is like kind of cool. Where you're like, oh, this is a total kind of new thing I've never seen before. And I don't know. And again, I just I don't want to skip past Ahsoka's just whole Indiana Jonesing on Arcana either. Like I don't want to jump right to Baylan Skull and Shin Hati. They're so cool and they're so neat, and I love those characters. But like Ahsoka is like mesmerizing. Like I think Rosario Dawson's really brought this character like a new level in terms of like just like how she solves puzzles. It seems like everything for her is pretty simplistic, and that she trusts the Force and gets through puzzles and whatever she has to deal with pretty quickly. And like, I don't know. And like fluidly, especially like with how she fights the droids and how she just takes on other adversaries throughout the first 2 episodes. It's like, Ahsoka's unstoppable. Like Well, I'm excited to see the match with Baylan Skull if that indeed happens.
Yeah, you can tell they're already slow playing it, right? Like they're just like, you got to wait for that one. We have apprentices fighting. We're fighting HK assassin droids, which is super fun,
right?
An Inquisitor, because like, Inquisitor, why not? I
talk
guess
about that for an hour. Yeah. So like, I know. And watching this, I got done with the episode 1. I'm like, oh yeah, this is a multiple season arc.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can watch, like they just set up so much that you're like, you just can't.
Did you guys like that temple puzzle and like the rotating of the discs?
It's awfully familiar.
Yeah,
like every Jedi Survivor.
I started reaching for my controller, but it's it's fine.
Wow,
it's
you
fine.
Guys, that's early, guys.
No, I mean
his controller to start playing it.
You want me to get real negative for a second? Yeah. It was a bigger puzzle than we got in the last Indiana Jones movie.
Wow.
Yeah.
So like what were did you read into the glyphs on the wall or like the images, the reliefs of the witches?
I was like, maybe it's Zephonian.
Could be like the Duarte. I don't know. Like I was trying to read into that stuff. I was like, is this kind of like connecting the statues in Palpatine's office to like the past, to like a distant galaxy? Yeah. Like these people help Palpatine secretly. I don't know.
I don't know. I mean, at first I thought it was Zephonian, but then obviously we found out it's a Dathomirian stronghold. I don't know. They had black eyes and hoods, and they're generally evil people with orbs. Could be a different sect of witches.
Nice. I like Ben's read. Yeah. That was pretty much my read as well. But that's all I got out of it. I didn't really.
I always assume with Star Wars, you're introducing new lore that will be explained
later.
Somewhere down the line, that not even introducing the possibility of new lore. Like it looks cool. It's weird. Someone else will explain it later as something.
Yeah. I mean, yeah.
And then we get Captain Hales. Is that right? New Republic captain who's like
not long for this world.
Doesn't have a clue.
I mean, that guy screams lightsaber.
He did not have to go down there. When I watched that scene, I'm like, he did not have to go down there to the docking.
He was bored, I guess, or something.
There's no reason.
Having done the the old EU read through, this felt so old EU to me in such a way of just like, and I don't mean that in any. I really mean that just as passively as possible, because I was just watching this going, I could totally see in a book like 2 Jedi unknown to people landing, people like greeting them. Like it's so weird to think about. Again, so many Force users. There are so many Force users wandering around now, and it's just like, and I kind of love it, but it's just like, this is weird. Like maybe, sure, why wouldn't there be another Jedi? Like that, like the idea of like, there's Luke, and then there's other people. Like,
makes the galaxy larger, man. I'm all for that. I was a little disappointed to find out that, I don't know. I'm just gonna say that it was fine that Morgan was a Dathomirian witch. I was like, oh, that's cool. I feel like the galaxy can have more than one witch tribe. You know what I mean? Like more dark side cultists of all women or something like that. Like I'd love to sort of it. I have to get this out before we keep going, because it's like this felt like a patchwork quilt or a mosaic of all Star Wars that's come before it. Because it's like, I mean, we've already said like video games, old EU, George Lucas, like classic. Obviously, there's some Rebels beats. I even like some of the music
in First Order stuff.
Some of there was like 1 or 2 music cues that were so Andor, like so Natal and Bertel, and Yeah, I was just like, so I'm waiting for this to like get its vibe, and I feel like this intro was kind of just like putting your arms around you, bringing you into this world. And I really hope the route they go is like the real like tribal sounding music. Oh, also prequels. Did either of you guys, this is my first question of the day, I have several. Did either of you guys get Kenobi or Skywalker vibes off of Ahsoka, off of her performance of Ahsoka? Did you watch it twice or once? I watched it twice.
No, Skywalker vibes off the performance.
I got when Ahsoka.
Oh, you mean like Luke vibes? Like she's been hanging with Luke, so she's incredibly zen. She's like Return of the Jedi.
No, that I think that she's trying to pattern herself as a Jedi master after. I think personally Obi-Wan Kenobi, but like it's weird because it's prequel era Obi-Wan Kenobi, very specifically, or like Clone Wars,
which is what she would be familiar with, right? So it makes sense that like she had enough interactions with Obi-Wan, right, and knowing who Obi-Wan was to honor that, right, to honor the legacy of her. I mean, her family is. Her father is Anakin and her grandfather is Obi-Wan, if you want to get real basic about it, right? And she can't honor her father very much after what happened with him. So to look to the grandfather makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I was thought of that. And then there was like one where she sort of goes out. She's like, sometimes you can't follow the rules or whatever, or don't, you know, and which was a very.
That's not standard Jedi protocol. She says that to Hu Yang.
Yeah.
Pretty early. I was like, when she interrogates Morgan Elsbeth, she basically hints at the idea that she used techniques outside the Jedi, you know, a doctrine in terms of how they use the Force to get information from Morgan, which is like, what does that say about Ahsoka? I mean, like, at the same time, we don't know what that is, but it's also like, I imagine she just Kylo Ren'd and like just held, you know, used her hand to just like pull information out.
I don't know. We saw some Anakin interrogations that were outside of protocol.
Oh, yeah.
So that would be my guess.
Anakin outside protocol? What?
Dude.
No.
Yeah, it's also hard. She is a child of war, right? I mean, she's brought into the Jedi Order as a Padawan.
Yeah.
You know, during the Clone Wars, it's her entire experience. So it's hard to like get that off of you. But yeah, I mean, I was just thinking, I thought you were gonna ask like Monty, which is just like, oh, they just reshot the scene with Darth Maul, like from episode 1.
Yeah, when
it's like a shot for shot. I'm like, all right, that's cool.
That's so cool. She's actually my like standout character for these 2 episodes. Like, I think that character is so cool.
I'm
like the coolest character.
Yeah.
Just the music that plays and how like eerie she is. Like, she seems like just scary to me. I'm like, if Shin Hati runs at you, that's pretty scary.
I love an enforcer character.
Alan Skull's pretty slow moving. Yeah. He's just like holds up his saber, blocks a few shots. She's just like darting around. I was like, okay, like this is not gonna be fun for any Jedi that has to. And obviously, we'll see.
I know we're going through it chronologically, but I just love the lightsaber fight with Sabine, because I love how many lightsaber fights I've watched. Because the second she went, I'm like, don't, there you go. Like, that's how you get impaled. Yeah. Like the second you can see it a mile away watching enough lightsabers. Like, oh no,
I know. I felt like her skills have diminished. She looked stronger even like the first time, and also she used to fight in her Mandalorian armor with a lightsaber, which I think is like, if you're not Force sensitive, you got to take every advantage you can get.
Yeah.
I wanted to talk about Hu Yang for a second because this is like one of the most exciting characters. So we found out from the Timelines book that this droid Hu Yang
25,000 years old.
At least 20,000 years old. Yeah.
Oh, okay. 20. Okay.
I think it was like 25 is like the beginning of the Force, and then like the first time the Order
was like 5 years after the start of the Order. He was like in the mix, and I was like, "What?"
Yes, but I don't know if like the Force occurred 25,000. Anyways, let's say 25,000 years. Yeah, it is. So,
the date created is exactly
25,000.
25,020. Okay. 25,020 BBY. You're off by 20 years.
20 years. So that is amazing, and the fact that all he's done, like his main job, has just been create lightsabers for Jedis, like help like them do that it gives me the warmest, fuzziest like feeling in my chest. I'm like so excited, and so that's how they discovered that Baylan Skoll, most likely a Jedi from the Clone Wars, but his Padawan most likely just some rando he found and trained.
Yeah.
So it's like, I mean. So we just read Heir to the Empire, the original Thrawn trilogy, and there's a character named Jorah Sabath in it. And I mean, serious Sabath vibes off this guy. Like, except like he's sane.
I'm gonna push back on this though. I'm gonna push back on this. I'm gonna say that cloning hasn't achieved sort of the ability to clone Jedi yet. Like
I would agree with that.
And to do it is incredibly difficult, I think.
Whoa! We just saw in the last season they were last season of this whole universe they were cloning.
Yeah, but I don't
force sensitive.
But they didn't look like Balin's Skull and Shin Hati. They look like Snokes. You know, it looked like it wasn't there yet.
No, they looked exactly like
Moff Gideon.
Oh yeah,
Moff
But
Gideon.
I don't think they had completed the four. They weren't. They hadn't figured it out yet. I mean, they were still in bubbles.
I mean, sure.
Oh no, yeah.
But that's a small leap to be like, and then we did figure it out
Yeah.
a week later. Like, who knows? Like,
Yeah.
Isn't Gideon trying to figure that out? Like, use the force in his army? Yeah.
I wasn't even suggesting it was a clone.
I also don't necessarily think he's a clone. But we can,
I was more just saying that Jorah Sabath finally got his apprentice. That was the evolution. They're like, all right, what if we actually just give him the apprentice that he wants, and like maybe he'll just be happy. But he doesn't seem crazy either. He's not.
I just feel like he's a rogue Jedi who's just either recruited a Padawan, or this is a family, a daughter, a cousin, a niece. Like this is someone he took in who has the Force, or like someone who's someone out there who he found who has the Force. He just made this person his Padawan, and then he's, I think, a sellsword mercenary. He's just, this character is just a mercenary.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to read into it too much, because I feel like, I don't know. There's also the secret of Thrawn's return, which I'm fascinated with. Just the concept of his return. You hear Ahsoka early in this episode, I think, say, I only found out about this map after hearing whispers about Thrawn's return, which actually led me to Morgan. So, does that mean that Thrawn seeded whispers? And then obviously when Pelion's talking about the secret of Thrawn's return is of great importance, this whole plan won't work unless his return is secret. And I was like, is he already back? Did he already seed some secrets around the galaxy that are like some rumors that are now just spreading and causing people to go in the direction he wants them to go in? And maybe he's using these Jedi and maybe they are clones, maybe maybe they are from Mount Tantus.
I don't know.
That's a whole thing. That's a whole thing.
Yeah. All we have is that line from Morgan Elsbeth, right? It's like, I hear his voices in my head, and Boylan Skull's like, you're talking about like dreams and fantasies. Like, stop it.
Yep.
But
she does say he calls to me or something.
Yeah, I hear his voice in my head
with Ezra or something. Also, we see Lothcats. That's just, we're gonna see Ezra soon.
Oh,
Ezra is going to meet a Lothcat.
You don't hire a person to just have him sit there in a
hologram,
a hologram for a little bit. But I
maybe
I think
do.
I guess you do.
Yeah, I mean, do for a little bit.
Maybe for season 1. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't
he
think
could be
Thrawn
dead.
is.
They could both be.
He
dead.
could be.
Yeah.
He absolutely could be. I don't think Thrawn's back yet. I think Pelion's been dining out on the threat of Thrawn for a long time, and I think actually
so that's what you think.
Weirdly,
up to? Okay.
Weirdly, I think we should have read.
You don't think Thrawn's right there, being like, and then say this?
No, I think.
Wait, don't say that.
I think we should have read the Thrawn duology more than the Heir to the Empire. The more I'm looking back at this, which is like what happens after Thrawn's dead and everyone pretending and they get a look-alike to run the Empire like through Pelion and other people, right? Like the threat of Thrawn is bigger than Thrawn himself. So I think that's what Pelion is working at him. I think he's going to be in for a surprise when Thrawn returns. Thrawn's coming back.
Yeah, I mean,
they
like I said, they're actually, I was saying like finding a good villain is the toughest thing, but they made 1, 2, 3, like 4, 5 if you include the assassin droids, which are great new villains too, but like 4 really great characters.
Can we count down the levels you have to get through in order to get the Thrawn, right? So you have the assassin droids, right? You got your front line, and then you got, was it Marak, Matak? What's
Marak?
Marak?
Yeah. Marak, yeah.
Inquisitor?
Then you got Marak, you're kind of like general.
Yeah.
Then you got your 2 dark Jedi. Then you got your Elsbeth. Yeah. Then maybe you get the Thrawn. Like you're 6 levels deep. They've done this in 2 episodes. I stopped at Carly. I'm Carly. Yeah. They've created an entire hierarchy of bad guys in deep. 2 episodes. It's wild.
Yeah, that is wild. That's an achievement. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Like,
because Filoni knew Ben was watching, he was like, Ahsoka gets an incoming transmission from Home 1.
Yes,
I know.
Dude.
I got so excited when
I
heard Home 1. Yeah.
I was like, oh, yeah. We got to do like the pure canon here. Like, we got to do like Home 1.
Of course he would name it that. It's like, because, what a classic. The classic ship, the classic mothership of the rebellion. Yeah.
It's really super cool. The other thing I took away from this is like I love the Mandalorian, but the Mandalorian is a very, although it's gotten larger, it started as a very, very small story, right?
Yeah.
It then started bringing in the Mandalorian stuff, and we got like whispers and touches of the New Republic in episodes here and there. Like we are fully in. Like it's weird. We're in the realm of Luke, Leia, and Han. Like we are playing around right next door to this stuff, which is wild when you think about it. Yeah,
they almost have to sort of pierce that veil every once in a while.
But it's at least a reference or a comment.
Yeah,
I thought it was brilliant setup too. Like the Zeb stuff we see in the Mandalorian, I was like, this is brilliant setup. I don't need an after credit scene. It's better if you weave your story within the story itself. So like if the previous content has a character that's part of a larger tapestry that's going to go with another story, have them kind of weaved into that. And I love how Zeb just appears with like Captain Teva at that bar on that cool planet. I was like, that beach planet, I was like, this is so awesome. I love all this stuff. And then I love how that connects to, it's immediately making me think about, I can't wait to see the other Rebels characters brought into live action. Like I cannot wait. Now it's like,
well, you got a ton of them already.
The idea, and like I think that was just so well done in terms of that way. And so when people do sort of raise the opinion piece about how Filoni might be trying to sort of emulate the Marvel, the MCU sort of like macro storytelling, like it within Star Wars, sort of using all of it to tell the story versus like just trying to tell a story in your own lane, like Gilroy and Mangold are doing. It's like it's interesting that Filoni's trying to use everything is all I'm saying. And I think like a lot of people are kind of making that comparison to the MCU. And I think it's fair, but I think he's doing it in a very smart way where instead of using an after credits scene, you see Zeb in the Mandalorian.
Yeah.
And then,
it's getting setting up
to think about Rebels, and like I can't wait to see the Rebels in live action. Sabine, so cool, like her intro. We'll get there. First we have to do Hera's intro. We haven't even got there yet, but it's so cool to see these characters.
Can I make an argument for why Star Wars is doing it better than the MCU?
Sure, yeah.
Because what you do, and if you're doing any property, this is now the showrunner Adam speaking, that I feel like I should be, is that you have your main property, right? Like where all of your storytelling happens, and that's the Mandoverse. They created the Mandoverse. Every show in the Mandoverse is part of this large tapestry, right? Then once you build it out, then you can tell these separate side stories. You got your Obi-Wan's Kenobis, you got your Andor, and they don't have to mess around in that main Mandoverse, but you start drawing people over to these side stories. Like it's like Marvel can't do that. Marvel can't have a standalone movie, right? Or a standalone series. Everything has to be weaved into this giant tapestry, which is now, and I'm a big Marvel fan, but it is now collapsing in on itself.
Yes, it is.
It is going to become a tiny little black hole.
Note the date.
Very quickly.
It's not great right now.
Yeah. And that's because you can't just, everyone thinks everything has to be part of it, right? As opposed to Star Wars, what's happening right now is, like we knew Obi-Wan Kenobi was just going to be Obi-Wan Kenobi. And we knew Andor is just going to be Andor. This perfect little side story that all you need. It's not going to have any Easter eggs or tell a story that's connected necessarily. Leave that to the Mandoverse and build out the Mandoverse and then allow these other stories to happen next door to it. Anyway, sorry.
No, makes perfect sense. But anyways, just home one.
Home one's great.
Yeah, home one.
We're there. We're back.
That was great. I do. I wanted to pull it. I think back, or maybe I'm pushing it forward. I don't know. I wanted to talk about it. The only thing that I got from the Rebels rewatch, or the main thing I got, was Ryder Azadi. Like that dude, I was like, exactly. Oh my god! And I recognized him by his voice. He must be the voice actor.
Yeah.
I don't.
He is Clancy
Brown.
Yeah, Clancy Brown. Yeah,
we're getting there. That's after home one.
You're like
home one is the debrief on the whole thing. That's when we meet Hera.
Oh, Hera.
Like,
Mary Elizabeth Winstead.
Seeing Azadi was cool though. That's another character from Rebels brought to life.
Yeah.
And it's the same. Yeah, it's what you're saying. Same guy.
No, you're right. All right, sorry, I won't jump ahead of home one. That was great. And then and I think that's what they've done. Like normally we'd be talking to Leia or Mon Mothma or something, when we're talking to the thing, but they sort of we have General Syndulla, and that's Cortez.
General
Yeah,
Syndulla.
working off the home one, which is cool. We know
Very cool.
from the Alphabet Squadron series and the Aftermath series, that's where she sort of.
Filoni takes the time to sort of map out the docking approach too for Ahsoka's ship, which I was like, thank you. I was like, thank you.
Yes.
Like, I need this. I need the slow docking. I need like a little bit more. Like the docking needs to slow down. Like I like when it's kind of slow.
So that's a hugely important point that I noticed watching this. Is this show takes its time. What I love about the show is that like the first episode was like 50 minutes long, 45 minutes long.
Yeah.
And that's 15 minutes longer than a normal Mandalorian episode. Nothing more, not more plot happens.
It covers a lot
in that
of
15.
ground though. It
covers, but so does an episode of Mandalorian. He just likes he's telling a cinematic story. He likes to tell his time. That scene with Ahsoka doing the temple, like doing the Indiana Jones moment, which may not have been like my favorite. I loved every second of that. Just watching. He didn't cut. Like he let her walk from pedestal to pedestal and turn it and look at it. It wasn't like fast cut.
I really appreciate how slow this show is. I love it.
Yeah,
it's fun. It's like, again, samurai films. Check them out. They're pretty slow and they're fun. Like it's really cool. It's almost like you really get to dig into the inner thought patterns of the characters and sort of dig into what they're thinking in the moment, rather than just quick replies and this sort of like memorized scripting. It's different.
I mean, one of my favorite parts of Star Wars that I can never get enough of are starships either flying into a new landscape, like nice wide, beautiful alien landscape, or like docking with some sort of structure.
Yeah.
Like, it's like so iconic,
And lightsaber fights of the prequels, I think I fell in love with as a kid. And I was like, I've always kind of, those images have kind of just stuck in my mind for a long time.
Yeah, definitely. But that makes it feel Star Wars to me. So I appreciate Filoni is leaning in on them quite a bit. So she gets the whole deal. Elsbeth has been captured. What else am I forgetting about Home One other than the fact it's Home One?
Nothing other than just Hera and just meeting Hera for the first time.
Yeah.
Oh,
Hera's extremely like cool. It's like just I love the outfit. I love the attire.
She looks great.
I wish like the show just put in like a little bit more like money into the VFX of the Leku and the head tails and like of both Ahsoka and I almost would have like done a VFX post they move, like
so
they
hard.
move a little bit around.
So
it's hard because I know it's like rigging and you have to simulate it and it has to be constantly simulated and it's probably insane.
I wonder if they also did a test because it's also hard because then like I'd be sitting there like going, look at those things move, right?
Like
you almost get distracted.
I would have been like, this is so cool. They're like
I don't know.
moving slightly and kind of like with the emotion. I don't know. I don't know. I guess they don't.
I don't know if
I thought Hera looked a lot better in the show than she did in the trailers. Like when you see the whole thing, you're like, oh, she's actually kind of spot on exactly.
Yeah, she's sustained on screen. You're just like, it's Hera.
Yeah. And interesting tidbit she's played by Mary Elizabeth Winstead, who is married to Ewan McGregor.
So, they got a little Star Wars family.
Yeah, a little Star Wars family, and their daughter was
I was gonna ask if they had any kids.
Yeah, it was the crackhead on that first planet that Obi-Wan goes to. The like girl that's like, what's that?
The clone trooper?
No, the same. Yeah, right after that, I think the girl in the pink hair that's like trying to sell him. Dust. And talk about how like she doesn't have a father or something. It was like a little wink and a nod. That was his
fun.
That's fast.
Yeah, she was great in that role too, by the way.
That's great.
Yeah,
that show is great. I encourage people to revisit that show. I think it's
yeah.
I love it.
And I really liked her performance. And Hera is like always like one of my go-to favorite like stealth characters in Star Wars. I think hasn't gotten enough focus because not a scoundrel, not a Force user, but is like really the heart and the bone, the structure, the skeleton of Rebels. I feel like holds everything together, and I think you get that. In this, they take that role of her just trying to get Sabine and Ahsoka back together. And then the other thing I was really appreciative, and it skips a little bit ahead to the next episode, which we'll talk more in depth about, is that I thought we'd only get Hera as like your mission brief, right? Like kind of comes in, has a mission brief, but she actually goes on a mission, which I was so excited about.
Oh,
yeah. I'm sort of wondering if like I said before, this is like we're getting a lot of Rebels now, and then it'll be focus around Sabine and the titular character, off on their missions and all the, and Ezra and all that. But I thought she was a great character, and
that's just such a cool scene when they're doing the briefing scene, and then Ahsoka's like, "This is the map that holds the key to the lost Grand Admiral Thrawn," and then it was so cool when Hera's just like, "It's impossible," or like, "There's no way," like he's still out there, and then I think Ahsoka hints that like the enemy thinks so, and then she's like, "That could mean Ezra," and then Hera's like, then when Hu Yang says the map's locked, she's like, well, who you should bring this map to?
Yeah, Sabine.
Sabine. And it's like, and that's the Sabine intro.
Right.
Now we're at Zadi, and all that. And I don't know who the senator is. Is he that's
Senator Kai? No, Jai Kell is his name.
Yeah, he was in Rebels. Who's from Rebels?
Yeah. I didn't get a chance to look him up because I was like, oh yeah, he's there because he's super young.
He rolls on that speeder with Ezra at one point or something.
Oh, yeah. Oh yeah, he was actually a great character. I think. Did he get pulled out of the he was one of the
Academy,
the Academy,
the Imperial Academy.
Yeah. That makes sense. Pretty fun. It's great to see Lothal flourishing. We get very Ralph McQuarrie vibes off that place.
Yep. So cool.
And of course we get punk rock, that's spelled Rawk, Ren, on a speeder bike, like spray painted.
Let's go.
And we get,
I love this.
And
I love this. I was so game.
I know, and one of my favorite roads in Star Wars. And it's like, if you watch Rebels, you're giddy because you've seen them travel on this road to the space port, a million times. And iconic scene. Music is perfect. It's great.
Yeah. It's so odd. It literally sounds like something I would have on my shuffle anyway, knowing my musical tastes. So it's really weird going, wait, what's happening now? And I'm like, I love the fact that what language is it? Is it Huttese or is it something else?
It sounded like Japanese to me, but
yeah, but it's like some made up Star Wars language. So I'm like, well, that adds points right there. That makes it Star Warsy. Just sing it in another language, in a Star Wars language. So I appreciate it. It took me a second, right? But like, boy, do they love the Rebels thing that always drives me nuts is whenever they be listening to a music, like a rock song on the radio. Do you remember those scenes? And I'd just be like, yeah. But this sounds better. This definitely sounds better.
Yeah. They can definitely get away with that. I love set music.
I thought it was incredible. I thought it was like one of the best character intros I've seen in Star Wars, and I wish more Star Wars stories just had the sort of gall to push it, And I was like, I love that this character is just, I don't know, incredibly.
It felt like an Ouroboros to me.
Yeah.
It felt like the tale of J.J. Abrams eating the tail of Dave Filoni. Because boy, did that feel like Captain Kirk's introduction.
Oh yeah.
2009 Star Trek.
Yeah. But almost more deftly handled. And the stunt was awesome, and they get away
with a better actor.
Like, oh yeah, I'm here for this. Like this character wins. Like this character.
I mean, but it was a perfect introduction,
except for the L at the end. Except for the massive L. But keep going.
No, I love that film. It's a perfect introduction for Sabine, though. It's like she's fearless. She's a rebel. She blows off her. She's supposed to be honored, and she's like, I'm not about that life. She loves speed and
Where
explosions.
was she moments before? In that same building and just bounced? Like, I'm confused. Like, she was coming from the city. I was very confused.
Decided to leave. I think she was trying. Knowing her, she was probably like, I should do this. I should do this. I should do this. I'm here. Nope, I'm out. I don't want to do this. I'm leaving.
She's like, I forgot to feed my Lothcat. I'd rather feed my Lothcat than be here.
But I like this is again something we got in the old EU of like, what happens when you're a rebel who is now part of a government, right? Like that is not like, can you like, and so we get that a bit in the old EU with Han and Lando. And so we're getting a bit with Sabine of just someone who's like, I'm not meant to be part of a system, right? Like I'm meant to take part in a system.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's really interesting storytelling. Yeah.
Yeah. Really good, man. They do that. We get the, she's reunited with Ahsoka. And it's and you get, so this is the other line that no one knows about, right? Apparently there was a training situation between where Ahsoka took Sabine on as a Jedi Padawan. Which is confirmed in the next episode that she does not have any Force powers. Or so light as to be
like doesn't even it's not even
was so
on the
excited.
scale. It's rough.
prediction from last week came true.
Yes.
That Ahsoka's theory of Jedi is you do not need the Force to be a Jedi.
Wow.
That's added, but
it's a very
it's a
Adam theory, and kudos, man.
Wait, is it? Because I feel like it's just a continuation of the democratization of the Force theme, and I think by the end of this series, you're going to see Sabine best Shin Hati by using the Force and showing anyone can use the Force. And
I mean that's another. I would love that too. That anyone can unlock the Force.
Wow.
Right. That'd be really interesting.
That'd be wild.
Yeah.
A memory core, unlock the Force. Yeah, I feel it. Like I feel it's coming. I don't know.
Okay.
I feel like
I'm voting against that, not because it's not a great idea. But
it's also the thing
that
we
would
thought
break
with
so
Omega
much.
for the longest time. We thought Omega was going to use the Force at some point, and we're like, wow, we were.
She will. Don't worry about it. It's still going to happen.
She's still young.
We got season 3. Don't worry.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, at the same time, I mean, like, I don't want to. I don't know, and I don't know if the Force. I think Elsbeth also kind of is alluding to another theme that's super interesting. I think Filoni's keyed in on, which is in a lot of fantasy stories. Fate is like is a sort of major quality to what happens in the story, in terms of like it's not always like person wields the Force in a moment. It's the Force just helps the person
working through
surmount the moment, basically.
That's
so
interesting.
It's more of like the Force itself might help Sabine in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? Like like Han, like thread the needle. Like that's what she does with the speeder early in this episode too, where she just slides under that starfighter, and I'm like, okay, like this is at some point there's going to be that like you have one moment to solve this or defeat this person or something.
But I like this idea as a devout agnostic, which is an oxymoron. But I like this idea of just like so it kind of goes against my feelings personally, but I like this idea from a storytelling standpoint of just like the only reason Han Solo is so lucky is because of where he's placed himself in the universe, and the Force knows that he needs to. So like he keeps getting these random victories because the Force is like, oh man, you're such an idiot. I gotta help you out because the Force needs it. Like this idea, just like some people are luckier than others because of the Force.
That's I mean that's my headcanon too. It's like the Force works in mysterious ways, and maybe it's propping up Sabine, to do all this stuff. However, Sabine kind of sucks. I'm just gonna go and say it. The character.
Ooh, all right.
I mean, come on. She was selfish. She was impulsive. She and
we'll set up the map.
Character.
She loses the star map is stolen.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's brutal. It's almost like a Star-Lord Endgame situation. It's like or an Infinity War situation.
I know, but it's like
no.
all because she needed like a more vibey workspace. Like, come on, like. Grow up.
No,
I relate.
Because she's
but honestly, like under the circumstances.
No, because here's the thing: you're giving her too much credit by saying she needed a different workspace. She's being a petulant teenager. I know the actress is older than a teenager, but it is very much like a continuation of that character, who like both her and Ezra were very petulant throughout Rebels, which is part of that, right? And I agree. Like yes, dealing with a strong-willed kid right now, it's very frustrating when they won't listen to logic. And that's one thing I have to realize that's going to happen for the next 28 years of this kid's life. But like part of it is
in 28 years.
I die. I don't know. Sorry,
it's an oddly specific number.
I don't know why I threw it out because I guess the 18. I'm like, that's not right. It's just a brain adding 10 to 20 to 18.
Okay,
but you know what I'm saying? Just like I have no plans for 28 years from now. Other than maybe we'll have reached the everyone will be part of the computer at that point. It doesn't matter. So anyway, where am I going? What's happening?
Sorry.
So my point is that like yes, it is frustrating. She's a frustrating character, and I agree with you. It's one of those things where you're just yelling at the TV, going, "Make better choices," right? But
this would have been a short series if she just figured that out.
For me, it's like she's Luke Skywalker with an edge. Like for me, she's the main character.
She is
I'm excited.
She's Anakin. She's everyone else, and now, basically, now you have our title character Ahsoka having to train a very petulant
non-Force
person who's very similar though to Anakin and Luke in some ways, and so I like that turning on the head of her having to like deal with, basically save Anakin, in a way, or a similar character.
That's true, but it's like I feel like if you're Force sensitive, you're attuned to the balance of energy around you, and it makes you a more calm and like stable person. And Sabine doesn't have all that. She just has explosives and loud music, and like that's it. and a lot of blasters.
Right. Speaking of completely stable people.
Right, Mandalorians.
No, more. Baylan Skull and Shin Hati and Morgan Elsbeth all gather on Arcana after that Sabine intro, and they're like the music that's playing is so spooky. I was like, I needed your feedback, Ben, on like that sort of stuff. That's the sort of stuff that I thrive on. I'm like, oh, this is the dark side can be scarier than old guys, filibustering to the youth. You know what I mean? Like it can be spooky. Like the dark side can be scary, and like this show gets that so right. And I think like if you want that element back in Star Wars, Filoni is the way forward because he gets that.
It makes sense that this is what we see of the Dark Force now that it's on its back foot, right? Because it's no longer in a power position in the universe,
right?
So now it's back in the shadows, right? And it's acting in the shadows, and boy, is it spooky in the shadows, and I love it.
No, I loved it.
It could have been spooky in the light too. Like it could have been always spooky.
Yeah,
and it was.
I don't know. Return of the Jedi is pretty spooky. Like when he has like when you look at like what's going on in his court of people.
Right, but then you go to like Exegol, and that's where the real darkness lies, and that's sort of operating in the shadows. Yeah, I mean it's always spooky, but like I think generally spooky vibes are great. I love the music beats that he does. It's like really like
When Shin Hati is kind of like, what is this place?
Yeah.
That was come on. That's the stuff I'm here for. I'm waiting for more of that sort of Star Wars. Hopefully
No, I can't. That's the thing. It's like I want to see the adventures of Baylan Skull and Shin Hati forever. Like maybe they'll get an animated series or something, but can you imagine just like what is their ethos? They're not like yellow-eyed like Sith. They're just like, what, we're tired of the system, we're doing whatever we can, or it's just like we got to look out for ourselves and this is what we're doing it. Like
because in that next scene, Ahsoka gets like Hu Yang identifies them and is like he actually ran away after the Clone Wars, and then I think there's a line Ahsoka or Hu Yang says like so many Jedi, and I was like, oh, we have so much territory and so many stories we can tell now.
It makes sense. We have so many Inquisitors. Like we have so many stories. Like we have Cal Kestis and we have Caleb Doom. Like we just are so many people did not, which makes sense. Like
there should be a lot.
You're not going to wipe them all out.
Yeah, it generated a lot of storytelling. That was very
thousands down to dozens. Right? Like that to me seems like a fair culling.
Yeah.
Then also at one point says like, there aren't many who can wield the Force anymore.
There's so few of us left.
Yeah, so few of us left.
Of them left. I can't remember.
It's a cool line. I'm like, okay, like so. There's not a lot of Force wielders, but also a lot of Jedi ran away after the Clone Wars.
Yeah,
cool. Like I love that. It sets up conflict immediately. I love all that stuff. So
I mean, they need to set up like what's happening. Another generation at this point. It's like, and I think that's what Shin Hati represents. But maybe they're just few and far between, and it's a big galaxy. So. I kind of like that where it's like it's a really, really rare thing to find someone with the Force instead of like the Jedi are here again. Well,
that's it's so cool now because we're now where Morgan Elsbeth reveals that she's a witch of Dathomir. And it's like this was the big reveal. I thought it was fine. There wasn't a lot of clues to that in episode 7 of season.
No.
It might have been a realization of, hey, we could do this.
She held her own against Ahsoka with a Beskar staff, which is something.
Yeah, that was something. Yeah. That was cool. I just thought, and like you said, Ben, I think earlier in the pod, you were just like, we can have other factions. Like it doesn't always have to be the faction that was in the most recent video game. The most recent. And again, I was thinking of Marin, and I was like, Morgan Elsbeth's more powerful than everyone we're watching right now. She can just turn into green fire and just like
raise the dead.
Just, I don't know, immolate. It's
I
raise the dead. Huh. Anyway,
there's a lot.
I'm like, is this how we get our Anakin cameo? So I feel like the thing is, I agree 100% with all of this. But boy, do they love, or does Filoni love the Night Sisters? Right? If you look back at the Clone Wars, there's so much Night Sisters.
I mean, he basically like filled in all the.
No, that's a really good question.
I think he did. I mean, we knew that Maul was from Dathomir.
There's a book where they started, I think.
Okay, I mean, because I mean, he did a lot with the Night Sisters.
I want to say they started in a Legends book, and I just
probably
maybe one of Maul's. All right, we'll have to do some research on that.
Anyways, we'll figure that out.
We've come to the most important part of the show, I think. I'm going to hijack this conversation right now and declare this lightsaber corner.
Yeah, lightsaber fight, baby.
So like, I love the fact that the way that
Thought of you.
Ahsoka, yeah, thanks. That Ahsoka found out, the backstory of Balin and Hati were through their lightsabers. And so we get a Hu Yang doing what Hu Yang does best. They analyze the lightsabers, and first of all, gives him top marks for lightsaber construction, which I thought was great. And the designs are beautiful. I love Hati's saber. It's got like a new age like polymer on it, but it really is designed very similar to Kanan Jarrus's, like where it has like kind of a hilt. It's like a Shoto thing. Oh, it's great, man. I dig it. But the big question for y'all, are the lightsabers red or are they orange?
I don't know, man. They look pretty red to me, but everyone's saying orange, so I guess I'll go with everyone else.
I think they're
Yeah,
orange.
I would say they're orange because I
they're definitely not like dark red. They're not like
they're
Sith
Ronin.
red.
They're not Sith. Like it
makes sense
to me. It's the delineation that they're not the dark side per se. They're kind of just swords for hire. But because they're cell swords, like I feel like they have just taken out people. Like they probably have a body count, and they're probably ruthless. And Shin Hati seems like just ruthless. And she's giving me clone vibes, like the way she's kind of vibing off everything. And like, I'm like, is she a clone? Like, what's going on here? Is she like completely dark side or something? Like,
the most expressive eyes.
Yeah.
Like it's just like
she's a little hunched to her back too, and like
she's like ready to kill anyone. And I'm like, that's
like a feral beast.
Well, I guess she doesn't. Yeah, she doesn't end. She takes out a lot of New Republic officers, but she doesn't kill Sabine, which is
and it seems like on
it's
purpose.
not a death blow,
right? Yeah,
on purpose, right? So, and I am feeling that she might betray Balin. Like there was, I think, a little bit, maybe in episode 2 or something. There's something there. We'll talk about it when we get there. But like, there's a moment where I'm like, is Shin Hati like not trust what Balin's doing with Morgan? Like, does she not trust this whole thing? Is she kind of see a different path here? Like that's
well, yeah. We don't know what her reason for being is, right? Where if it's to learn the Force and to become, a Jedi or a Dark Jedi or what.
Well, she finds out Morgan's a witch, right? In that moment, she's kind of like, "You're a witch." Like she's the one who's kind of accusatory and says, "Like you're a witch." Like, like that's interesting to me. I think is there? Why are you singling her out? Why are you raising that? That to me, that's kind of interesting. And I just think that they might be going somewhere with Shin Hati.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, that ends lightsaber corner. Sorry.
Anyways, final fight. Sabine fights those HK droids. She gets stabbed.
Yeah.
Credits.
Yeah.
Yeah. Whoopsie daisy.
Credits. And not to get too macabre on this, but just like we talked about at the beginning, it's for our friend Ray, right?
Yeah.
It's just like it was rough watching that after literally watching someone get impaled and possibly die. I was just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Like it was like rough, but I get it. Like you gotta do it. But yeah, it was one of those things where like Carly's like, well, she's not dead. I'm like, no, probably not. Like, it was just so
Like, it'd be wild if they killed her, right? But spoilers for Toil and Trouble, episode 2 of Ahsoka, which will go now. So first, just the name Toil and Trouble is from The Wizard of Oz, right?
It's from Macbeth. It's
from Macbeth, right? Which is Hubble Bubble Toil and Trouble. That's from Macbeth. That's not.
Yep.
Yeah. Double Toil and Trouble.
All right.
Yeah.
Something.
Yeah. All right.
Which is like there's our witches, right? Because that's the witches of in Macbeth. So we get our little there. My wife, the English major, was saw that one. Oh, okay. Yeah, I get it. Okay. Cute.
There you go.
You're a witch. Yeah. We need a witch reference immediately.
Yeah.
But yeah, from episode 1 to episode 2.
Yeah. So we see all our dark side villains. They get together on the reflex point on Cetos, which is like we get another. You got to really work to find the like planet names. Cetos is in Deneb.
Again, before that happens, Sabine wakes up in the med bay.
Oh, yeah.
Or like Ahsoka's on
immediately.
Sabine wakes up. So we're like relieved. We're like, oh my God. Like, okay. Like she's all right. But we all knew, I think, that she was going to pull through. But yeah, Cetos. Back to Cetos.
Yeah, I don't know.
Before we do that, we're gonna keep my new things. We're gonna keep interrupting and not letting Ben talk about Cetos. I got some Night Sister updates for you.
Oh, nice.
I'm curious.
Let's go.
First appeared in 1994, The Courtship of Princess Leia, which old EU book.
Oh, okay.
Which totally makes sense because now it's coming out in the Essential Legends collection here. I think that's coming out next month. So. I hate when they release those things. They're always tied into stuff that's going on. I'm like, oh, you're like, I can see what you're doing there. But this is technically not the first on-screen live-action appearance of a Night Sister we have seen in Star Wars.
Where,
no one's ever gonna get this one.
Okay.
Wait, hold up.
Mother Tanzin? Did she show up as something?
No. It's a retcon. They retcon the character as being a Night Sister from a previous experience. That makes sense.
In a cantina somewhere.
Nope. Actually, a pretty major character in something. You're never gonna.
I'm never gonna get it.
I never gonna. No one's gonna get this. The
Asajj
Ewok,
Ventress somewhere?
No. You're thinking way too You're thinking way too relevant. The Ewoks movie, The Battle for Endor, the main bad guy is a witch. I remember that, and they decided retroactively that she's a Night Sister of Dathomir. No. So
see again.
So I think we all have to watch The Battle for Endor for next week and do a review of it.
I'm okay. You guys do that. See, that's a perfect example where it's like, why can't there be Force-sensitive Ewoks that are witches essentially, and they have their own witch sect? It just makes more sense. We don't all have to be witches of Dathomir. I'm just saying.
No, correct. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Anyway,
so
Cetos, which is such a cool name, and that, I mean, I don't want to point out when the volume was being used, but those those trees in the background, I was like, okay, clearly volume, but love the usage, love the new use. It's like a forest, and it looks awesome, and
it's just red and black.
It was cool that it all conveniently happened on the cliffside there. That was awesome. But no, it was so cool. I love that set, and I love that planet.
It reminded me of the location from JJ, the second Star Trek movie, where Captain Kirk comes running out of a red forest and then falls down a cliff or jumps down a cliff or something. It was in broad daylight and it was different. But
that might be the third one. But
maybe it was the third one then. Yeah. Whatever. Yeah.
I saw Adam doing calculations.
But again, it's like I just felt J.J. Abrams vibes when I saw that red forest, because it's like any excuse to use red, do it.
Yep.
In a bold way.
What do we think about the circular henge of stones and just
I love a good henge.
Formations and star maps and stuff. We love it.
And twice on Sunday, I love a good henge. Yeah, it's dude, all the lore stuff.
Love a henge.
I love a proper henge. You know,
I mean, I know that's what they're going for, but when they show the scale of the galaxies and stuff, it is kind of mind bending and breaking for a moment. I'm like, so why do I care? Why do I care about these little Force users in this one little part of one little galaxy and this giant thing? Which I'm like, I guess I should not think too hard about my life.
Yeah,
but it's just I was just like, whoa, it is pretty impressive the scale we're dealing with. First time.
It's so cool when she shows them that star map and the galaxies and Balin's like, this reminds me of a folk fairy tale we told each other in the Jedi, the pathway to Peridia. And I was like, have we heard of this before in a Legends novel? Or
no, I looked it up. That was the only, that's a first
There's
mention.
Nothing. Ben looked it up. There's nothing. Yeah. He says the Jedi remark on this sort of, and then even when Sabine, I think, initially unlocks the map, she says she saw two galaxies and a pathway between them. And Ahsoka's like, where is this? Where did that planet? Where's the reflex point, basically? And it cut to Balin and Shin find it. But that scene where they show the pathway to the other galaxy, I was like, oh, we're in for a ride. This is going to be like Interstellar. We're going on the Eye of Sion, and it's like 8 hyperdrives to another galaxy in this show.
Or Purgles.
We're like, buckle up.
I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so you think it's the Eye of Sion? Did you look it up? Because I thought I heard Eye of Sion, but Eye makes so much more sense.
It's Eye,
because it looks like an eye.
Yeah, I saw it. It's in the. I saw it on the closed captioning. It's
cool when they slot the star map.
Crumped about Eye of Sion
formation. That was
So
cool.
we get the whole thing, and I mean, they don't really say it explicitly, but I assume that this, place at Cetos and that the Dathomirian stronghold for knowledge, like the tool is one that an ancient people used to map the migration paths of Purgles. Like it's not just like this.
Okay, let's get into this. You want to get into this now? This might be 30 minutes.
Okay.
So do we think this is like a Purgle route here? Like, do we think like this is a route from this galaxy to the other galaxy to Peridia via Purgle? Like this is the route the Purgles go. And so this ancient
it's a hyperspace
these ancient
lane.
people from a distant galaxy who built this henge. These people rode the Purgles?
Or they at least mapped the Purgles. Like, I don't know about rode them, but like they followed their migration paths to give us hyperspace lanes. Yeah.
They 100% rode them. Don't forget how much Lucas loves to borrow from Dune, and the one thing we haven't gotten is the riding of sandworms. And so Filoni's like, oh, there's one thing left in Dune that I can take.
Hyperspace worms.
Yeah. Well, I mean, because so in the end of Rebels, spoiler alert, I guess. Sorry. But I mean, so the way that
you need this if you're going to enjoy this show.
Yeah. So what happens there in Atmo, like, Ezra traps Thrawn in this Star Destroyer. And I think it's the whole Star Destroyer, but like all the windows are blown out.
Is it the actual? Is it the?
Or it might just be the bridge.
Might be the bridge.
It's a
giant big part of it. It's a chunk of
it. But like the windows are blown out, and I remember this from the first viewing. I'm like, wouldn't they, like, you can't go into hyperspace with the windows down? I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, it's over.
I don't know.
You know, like, but it's like, so I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of way that Purgles can sustain life or something.
Unless the Purgles make a hyperstream where you can kind of not be affected
in its wake.
Energy that's effervescing around.
Yeah,
I mean, the problem is we're trying to add physics to hyperspace travel, because like I don't know, there's probably no atmosphere, but there's also probably no pressure inside of, like, because we're in between space literally. So I'm guessing like
that's interesting.
You probably are fine
as long as they land.
Now my brain's now starting to break. That would be the problem, is that they popped out in space, then they're toast, right? But I don't know.
Yeah, and I think it was kind of a good tool, because it looks like imminent death. And then, but it's like, well, maybe there's a chance, you know, and they're still floating that there. But yeah, what do you guys, what do you think the new galaxy is? It's just like it's just a galaxy, right? Just some other random
galaxy.
It's just a galaxy.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a fancy. I can't imagine. It's weird because there's so much we don't know about the Star Wars galaxy, right? So it's just like, I don't know what they could show me that would be
weirder,
like amazing, weird,
or even
right?
identifying
being too weird
to be like, oh, I'm definitely in that galaxy. Yeah, unless of course it's our solar system.
So it's really funny because they show you all the other galaxies, and I was like, should I look too hard to see if I can identify the Milky Way? And I'm like, no, I don't want to see it. If it's there, please don't show me that. You know,
I don't.
Like,
I mean, we know it's out there somewhere, but like, I really hope we're not like going to see like Shinhati in Detroit. You know.
No, well, it's a long time ago, right? So,
Filoni would definitely do that.
I mean, you could do a spoiler alert for Battlestar Galactica. You could do Battlestar Galactica rules where we're actually, seated by Star Wars people. But I have a feeling, I almost have a certainty, knowing visual designers, that in that whole star map where you see all the other swirling galaxies floating around, that one of them will be identifiable as the Milky Way, right? Which I'm like, all right, fine, I guess, like whatever, but it's just weird. I don't want to see it. Don't show it to me.
I expect that. The stuff you guys are talking about, I expect it. I'm like, of course, there's going to be these little off-kilter references to the Milky Way, whatever. I feel like this galaxy, I mean, like, there's some lore to there. Obviously, the glyphs we see, like the people with the black eyes, like that could be
maybe the Zephyr.
Go ahead.
Be everywhere when we get to this planet, wherever it is.
I guess the only thing you could show me that would blow my mind, which is not, this is not a recommendation nor a desire, but the only thing that would go, whoa, is if you show me the Yuzhan Vong, right? Because it's the only extra galactic threat we know. Don't do that. Please don't show me that. But that would be the only thing that would actually have a register.
Yeah, or the Grisk, right? That's the canon version of the Yuzhan Vong, which we haven't seen yet.
Kind of, yeah. Yeah.
We've seen them in the Thrawn novels, trilogies.
Well, what if you do, like, in Andor, we recently got a lore drop from Luthen Rail where when he gives Andor the Sky Kyber, and he's like, this was Sky Kyber given to us in the time of like the Rakatan invaders.
Oh.
And like when he said Rakatan invaders to me, I was like, does that mean that they're extragalactic and that they basically invaded the galaxy like after the Republic was established? You know, like the Republic viewed it as reviewed the Rakatans as invaders. And but again, the glyphs don't point to that though. Like I think Filoni's more forward thinking. I think I think the glyphs are a big key here. I think like wherever we're going, it might be more reflective of what we've seen in the glyphs.
I kind of love that you gave me an idea there, Grant, because it's like, what if this galaxy views all of these people, the Eye of Zion, and I assume, whatever Ahsoka and Sabine are following in, if they're not on the Eye themselves, like as invaders themselves, and like get met with like this resistance, and then it could start an intergalactic conflict, or a galactic conflict.
I think something like the Yuzongvan could work theoretically, though, even though it's not something I like wish for. It's almost like it would be cool if like both Thrawn and Ezra didn't stand a chance on this planet, and they were immediately like sort of like driven into thraldom and sort of like captured by this like ruthless force, almost like it would be cool, because then they both don't have the edge, you know what I mean? Like, because I'm keep thinking of a scenario where I'm like, Thrawn is always going to have the edge on Ezra. I just don't know why, but it just feels like that's just how the story dynamics have worked so far. So it's like,
no, you definitely could. We talked about that before. You could have very much an escape from your penal colony, banded together, good guy, bad guy having to work together, which could be interesting, right? You definitely could do that.
Which could work.
Which, by the way, the one thing that we didn't talk about is like they're not doing the storytelling that we thought or we were told they were going to be doing by probably not a very good source with the time jump. So now we know. Well, we don't know. There could be a flashback episode, but seems to be suggesting that we're going to spend 8 episodes in this timeline, which really opens up the amount of storytelling they could do with this. And you could have it'd be much easier to put a Ezra Thrawn episode in the middle of this somewhere.
I would like that. I have a feeling
a prison break or something. That'd be
cool. I would like that, but I have a feeling we don't know anything about this like conflict between Sabine and Ahsoka, and I have a feeling we're gonna like flash back and sort of see some of that.
I think that's a good call.
Because I feel like they kind of like
done it,
played it like we're over.
I kind of hope we don't
like
see
we're back as
me
Padawan
too,
Master
but it was something that crossed my mind.
It's gonna be the thing that I hate the most, which is like just have a conversation, like just talk it out.
The
whole thing is communication, right? I think, or like I don't know, like I get they're not super open with each other, and so really bad things happen. Like the map gets stolen, maybe as we progress in the story, we're as the audience, this is actually really great for the story, because the audience is like thrilled by like, oh no, something horrible is going to happen, because they're not simpatico, like they're not connecting, and you're thinking again to how they have that friction or how that past relationship that's already been established. I don't think we need to flash back to it. It's almost like now I know something bad could happen in the 11th hour or the time of need, and it's like I'm going to be worried as an audience member, and that's stakes, and I think that's wonderful.
It's
and so
stakes that can also resolve, because I am so sick of bad master, bad apprentice dynamics. We've gotten it in almost everything. Like, can we get a good master and a good apprentice? And I hope that's what this is leading towards. They're both learning from their mistakes and learning each other, and they're going to end this season being simpatico, right? But that they have to work through this, and there will be an ultimate loss or something. My guess is, I don't know, can I get a dismemberment from someone, please? Like, not like horrible, but like we haven't. No one's lost an arm in Star Wars in far too long. Let us lose an arm.
Baylan Skull or Shin Hati might get that. You might get that order soon,
like, and again, I'm not like wishing harm on fictional characters. You know what? No, I am wishing harm on a fictional.
You are,
because it doesn't matter, because it's fictional. But like,
I do think Ahsoka, if she cut your arm off, she would like nurse you back to health, though, and like make sure you're okay.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Anakin would just leave.
I don't know.
I don't know about that.
She's done a lot of damage over the years, but her body count is high, real high. I mean, I guess it's mostly droids, but
it's droids.
I don't think she's.
I guess she hasn't killed anyone, has she?
I feel like she's a utilitarian. She's always trying to do the most good. Like when you watch Clone Wars, she's like, we have to help. Like, I have to do good.
I think a lot of storytelling will happen when we get her actual, like we got our first confrontation with Marok, but like when it actually turns deadly or close to deadly, right? I think we're gonna get. It could be really interesting to see how she handles it. Will she do the Cal Kestis route, which is one of my favorite things in the beginning of Jedi Survivor, where he's just trying to remind her who she was before. Remember that scene where he gets the sister, the Inquisitor at the very beginning of that game.
Oh yeah.
And it's like telling her you were this person, and then kills her. Right? This amazing.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
remember you were this.
Yeah.
Like yeah. So I wonder if we get a bit of that.
And sister.
Trying to bring her back. Do we want to do Marok talk?
Yeah.
Yes.
Is it Maruk or Marok?
I'm going with Marok because it sounds like talk, but it's probably Maruk.
Yeah, I thought they pronounced it Marok. What did I write down here?
M-A.
Oh, I said Turok,
okay.
but yeah, I think it's Marok. Marok,
yeah.
probably, because you're both saying that. Yeah, I mean, wild choice. So Inquisitors were under Vader. And,
Yeah,
and
haven't
the
existed
Emperor
for a decade
5
at
years?
this point.
5 years, I
Yeah,
think.
yeah.
Well, yeah, no,
It says
yeah,
that
because
we're 9 ABY.
right, and Return of the Jedi was 5 ABY, so 4 years.
Right. Thank you.
Technically,
Thank
they
you
would.
for that.
I mean, they exist
Yep,
as
no, you're
long
right,
as.
Yeah.
as
But
the
still,
Empire
but
exists.
5 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And still donning the helmet, still wielding the blade.
The dumb
Yeah, it's the
lightsaber.
classic
Yeah.
Inquisitor.
Yeah.
It's like when I think of Inquisitor, I think of Marok.
Yeah.
Honestly, whenever I think of Grand Inquisitor first, but then I quickly, it's Marok because he's just so iconic and jumping around with that lightsaber.
Yeah, and very Arthurian knight, right? But like very lithe and like able to move. But the armor's like, really cool, like face mask. Knows they're outclassed by Ahsoka Tano instantly. They're
So-
like, fights and then like cause a distraction and runs away and like, that's
So
it.
you're
Live to fight
bringing
another
up an interesting point, Ben, because you're using they, them, right? Which I
Yeah.
think is the appropriate. But everywhere on Wikipedia, they're using masculine pronouns, him, he, him. And I'm like, I didn't remember reading back if they use that pronoun or not. If he said like he is or him. Does either of you remember that?
Yeah, I don't remember.
remember
And I
that.
thought he was an alien. I thought he was a not.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm with you. Like, I don't. Why are we revealing?
I thought he had 3 fingers in the show.
He's definitely humanoid, but I don't know.
I'm assuming non-human
Humanoid.
because they'd be extremely old and they are bouncing around a lot. I mean, I guess.
But again, Zeb had like 3 fingers, and they gave him human hands.
Yeah.
In,
yeah.
the show and Mando.
did they?
So it's like they've kind of just made their humanoids more human.
Yeah.
Well, it's easier to do. Less cost.
Yeah, for the obvious reasons that.
But it's just like,
actually
is
the
Marok
person
going to be anyone? Is kind of what the internet is now going nuts about.
If I was gonna guess, it might be what was her name? The Miralon girl that like sabotaged the sabotage in Coruscant.
Is it? Does it begin with
Barriss Ophi.
Barriss
Barriss Ophi? As like Barack for us.
I thought it was like the acolyte, like Kiva from like Shadow of the Sith or something. Then I was like, nah, I don't know.
Shadow
What
of the Sith. Oh yes,
that book.
yeah.
But then I was like, that's later. Never
We also
mind.
are behind on a book, but I don't think it's going to tell us anything.
Are you talking about Red Blade?
Yeah, the Red Blade.
I've been reading that.
Yeah,
guys.
we
I don't know if I
read-
told
Oh,
you
nice.
Hey, we're talking about an Inquisitor, and we haven't
that. An
read
Inquisitor book. It is not her.
Yeah, I
No.
assumed it wasn't going to be.
It's absolutely not, because it's so that whole book is based off really 2 characters, but one main character from 2 issues of Charles Soule's, which I went back and read that.
Okay.
And it was just
Cool,
like
cool.
middle of the 2017 run. It was issues 19 and 20.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's that you meet them, and in 2 episodes they give this great story about this character. They actually say a lot in very short amount of words.
Yeah.
And I don't want to spoil it, but I'm gonna just tell you right now.
Not.
It's
Okay.
definitely
That's
not
all.
her.
I just wanted confirmation that's not her. That makes sense. Fair enough. I wonder what happened.
What did you think of Corellia and our return to Corellia?
Oh, that was great.
And, it was cool, right?
Yeah.
I was like, this is awesome. Like, we're going back here. The shipyards. Not a great
we actually went there.
management policy with the New Republic, though. They definitely did not use ZipRecruiter.
No.
They
Well, it's hard, right? Like,
just kept the old staff.
Yeah.
You know what? You're an ex-Imperial. Stay on
Yeah.
board.
What's the
We
worst
got
that could
a
happen?
role for you. And then Min Weavers, the supervisors, is just like, well, what can you expect? I mean, like, a lot of these people are ex-Imperial. Like, this is how we do
Also,
things. Whatever.
that actor
I was just like, just playing it casual, and I was like,
that actor, a great character actor in everything. The second I saw him, like,
Yeah.
that guy's an Imperial.
Yeah. And so this was like Full Metal, like Andor, right? Like
Yeah.
it was just like that one Andor episode where you're in the like things and you're dealing. Actually, there's a couple, right? Oh no,
Well, it's very
this is
no, it's
Mandalorian.
season three Mando.
Mando,
It's
yeah.
and that Kara's like, did that happen to Mando or Andor? And I'm like, Mando, and she's
yeah.
like, oh, that's what we're doing. Because we also came to the realization of half of season 3 of The Mandalorian is just a prequel to Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And that's why that season felt so disjointed to me, because it was half doing the service to set up Ahsoka and half moving the Mando story along.
Yeah, which is nice when you.
I thought it was brilliant. I like that story. I
thought it was clunky.
Pretty smart in terms of that story direction of like set up, like push the Mandos to the point where they retake their homeworld, but also push the Thrawn mystery at the same time. Like I thought that was smart in a lot of ways, and the Shadow Council and Pelion and like putting Pelion again. I think like the macro storytelling. I think people don't give Lucasfilm enough credit for this. I think like the macro storytelling that Filoni's and Favreau
there's more
doing,
going on.
I think is superior to what Feige has been doing over 20 years. You know, it's like I love the MCU. I'm a huge Marvel fan. Like I love all the movies. I watch it all. It's great. I just think like that formula, post-credit scenes, constant sort of like sort of like featuring best of stuff that characters just pop onto other storylines and just appear for a short stint. I don't know if it's as good as sort of like what Filoni and Favreau are doing in terms of like seeding big concepts like Pelion and the Shadow Council. That's a big thing. Like we're setting up a massive part of the Ahsoka verse, so that whole thing in Mando. Like to me, I think it's something to look at and examine.
Yeah, I like so Ahsoka said a term where she said, I think it was from the first episode. This is the last Grand Admiral, which is Thrawn, which was a big storyline in the original Thrawn trilogy we just read, where they're like, oh well, there was 14 and we thought we had them, sort of there, but like she's confirming he's the last Grand Admiral. So the Shadow Council is below that. They're just considered warlords, but they do have sectored off the galaxy, so they've got that going for them, which is nice. Do we want to come back to this? We did come back to the story a lot. This is, there's a couple of big action pieces, right? And Riv Weaver, you talked about the falling out. Chopper is we finally get some Chopper in there.
Yeah, we finally get the chops.
We get full on Chopper. I thought we were gonna kind of like reserved like live action Chopper. I like Chopper. I think Chopper is
having a conniption
is fine.
Like short circuit.
Really? Not your favorite droid?
Not my favorite droid, especially now in live action. And like Carly's like, what is this thing and what is going on? I'm like, that's Chopper. Don't worry about it.
I find this is so wild because that's 2 out of 3 now out of our group. It's like, people love this droid.
Yeah, I'm one of them.
Great. This is Dave Filoni voicing the droid. I have never been a huge Chopper proponent. I've never been like, I can't wait to see what Chopper thinks.
Chopper can be used correctly and very incorrectly. And like, I was kind of fine with him for a little bit, but they cut to him in this episode, in my opinion, way too many time for reaction shots. And I'm like, I was waiting for him to dab. Let's put it that way. Like to watch a droid like do.
Did he not?
He did a muscle flex.
The flex. That's like signature move. Yeah.
I know.
Oh,
it's
you
fine
guys.
in the cartoon. It's fine in the cartoon. Do not throw that in live action.
So the thing with Chopper that's a fun game is that like you can, if you listen really hard, you can understand what he's saying with context. And it's like, so that's always a fun thing. So you can see if you're trying, they cut back to him.
It's super obvious to me though. I'm like, oh, I know exactly what he's saying.
Isn't that fun?
But he's just so erratic that it's like, I can't even focus on what's happening in the moment. I'm like, what's the mission?
I know, but he's like, you moved my. He's like, did you move my stuff? You moved my stuff. He's like, where's my stuff? And he's like going through, and she's like, knows exactly where it is. He's like, oh yeah, it's right here. But it was like a great comedy beat with a droid that you can't get a lot of the times in the heat of action, and then the motion where he like winds up and throws it, like that's like very classic. I adored him in the comic. There's one where all he wants is a new leg. And it leads to this very important mission. It's like the droid episode, but it's a very important episode.
That is very funny because that's also where you get
AP5.
What's AP5, which is my favorite droid. Can we get AP5, please, in this series?
Yeah, I'm a big B2 emo fan. So
B2 emo's ill, man. They're all great.
I'm a big I'm going to stay here inside in my charging dock.
Yeah. Yep. I don't know. I love Chopper. I thought that was because I felt like he was perfect. It was like in live action, he translated perfectly from animation.
Agree to disagree. Well, No, actually, I think you're correct. I think the takeaway from this is, if you like Chopper in the cartoon, you will like Chopper in this series. If you did not like Chopper in the cartoon, you probably won't like Chopper in this live action.
That's a good
series.
translation.
Yeah.
It's.
But I welcome.
That's
Chopper.
why I agree with you. It is a good translation. Was it needed or necessary? We can debate on that.
He did kind of turn up the volume on that scene though. So like he does have a power to him too, where it's like, if you're chasing a ship and you're trying to throw a tracker on it, it's cool to see Chopper sort of like.
Yeah, I think my biggest issue is how many times we saw Chopper.
Wow. Okay. All right. I'm gonna get off this very divisive subject. Like,
And then
I could use more. I wanted to see him rolling around on the ground.
I also will say,
get him out of that starship.
If this is like it in this series and we get this one Chopper scene, I might come back and go, "This is great." Does that make sense? But if we get like a 3-minute comedy routine every episode with Chopper, I'm gonna stick to my guns probably. But if it's just like one and done, I'm like, "Oh, that was cute."
Is Hera going?
I don't think Hera's going, man. She's too important.
Hera's going.
Like she's only in half the conversations in real life.
I think we might be done
She's
with
a general
Hera at this point, and might check back with her here or there. But I think her storyline's kind of somewhat complete.
She's the general on Home One. She's like the leader of the.
Huyang's
definitely going.
Oh yeah, definitely going.
But that's the thing I was gonna say is that's when we talked about earlier of just like bumping up against Leia and Luke. I mean, Luke we know is off doing his Jedi, building his thing.
Wait,
and Leia's probably off on
Coruscant.
Coruscant.
There for a second. Wait.
Yeah.
Wait, why isn't Huyang at the temple, like prepping for like?
I don't know how much Luke has taken from old stuff.
What temple? Oh, Luke's temple.
Like, why isn't is this something? To
no, I think
not?
It's a worthy question. I think Luke built his own. Okay. He did it by himself. It was his own thing. I think he's more. He's more like brick and mortar, like really basic, like whatever, like back to nature Jedi as we saw him.
Yeah.
Is this saying overtly that Luke doesn't want Huyang and sort of the 25,000 years of Jedi history that Huyang carries? In his new order, he wants to start from scratch because he kind of believes that the mentors of the past.
Maybe right.
Didn't know how to
restart it himself, right? Rebuild it. Yeah.
I mean, listen, it makes sense, and I stand behind that. But it's just like Huyang's so cool. Like, just, I mean, like,
agreed.
He doesn't, he doesn't need to decide, design the Jedi, the new Jedi Order. But like, you
don't have to do what he says either. It's just like he's not going to tell you about Jedi doctrine and be like,
he's not annoying.
It's like it is
like
he's not constantly getting in your business or in your way. He's just there as a depth of knowledge. He's there as your consigliere, right? Like provide you with the information.
Yeah. So wouldn't Luke want
make a decision? Yeah. I mean, who doesn't want a David Tennant droid? I know I do.
Right.
I know. Don't you? It's like he's going to go out in this dangerous mission. Like I'm scared.
Maybe not yet.
He's the Jedi. He's basically the Jedi Order in a lot of ways. Like
he's kind of too valuable to do it. So it makes me think that like Ahsoka found him and Ahsoka's keeping him to herself.
Yeah,
she's just like you're mine, buddy.
Like hasn't told Luke, or he's on loan from Luke loaned him out for this mission. Who knows? Like we don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's all the stuff that they could be doing. That's why I'm still not holding out hope, but I think there's still a possibility we get some flashbacks because, how did they get to Huyang? How related to Luke's school is Ahsoka? We know she's been there, and we don't know why she was there, but she was there. So yeah, what's going on with all that? Like, what has Ahsoka been doing for 10 years?
Yeah,
plus all 10, 11 years. Those are things that, like, if this is going to be the Ahsoka story, I feel like that's essential. But maybe they'll save that for comics or something. But there's always that. But that's great. So we get to see a Super Star Destroyer hyperdrive. That was fun.
Right. Yep.
And apparently they're collecting these things, and it gets stolen, put in the eye, and they're off to the races. But as when they are sort of arresting all the
Imperials.
Empire loyalists,
ex-Imperials,
ex-Imperials.
Oh yeah, great Jedi line. Yep.
Yeah. It was just sort of like how can they be loyal to the Empire? And I think it was Ahsoka said it's not loyalty, it's greed.
Yeah.
And I was like,
good.
That's a good meta
Jedi
term.
Yeah, it's a good meta term. It is, but it's a good Jedi, right? It's a good Jedi of just understanding human behavior, right?
Yeah.
Just very quickly. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like how can you be still loyal to this guy that sold out the United States government?
Right.
It's like, oh wait, it's just greed.
Yeah, that's greed. Simple as that.
Cool. And then we get
awful.
the recreation. We did get this scene that was teased in the trailer, which was one of the final scenes of Rebels, where Ahsoka goes to the tower on Lothal in front of the moved mural of the Rebels team to pick up Sabine and go to the inflection point on Cebus or whatever it's called, CMOS.
CTOS. Yeah, that's basically the mirror scene from Rebels.
One thing's missing,
and they just changed the robes out. There are no Gandalf robes. It's now just like brown.
Yeah,
the poncho I could say is close enough, but they left out the Gandalf staff.
Yeah.
Well, which is like a weird thing. It's like, well, they got lost.
We'll be back at that lookout tower.
So just because she's done that once, doesn't mean she doesn't do it again. Like, who knows? Maybe on this quest, all she gets is a staff. You know, if we're doing Indiana Jones rules, and she comes back one more time,
and then she brings Sabine back on as her Padawan. Mm-hmm. But by that final statement,
we get the actual Padawan.
Sabine punches it.
It's so exciting. We have not gotten a Master and Apprentice story in a long, long time in Star Wars. We didn't really get much of it in the new, in the new trilogy. We got a little bit, right? We got a little bit of Luke and Rey, but the similar amount that we got in the original trilogy. But like the last time we got real deep ones were in the prequel trilogy. So it's exciting, to get some Master and Apprentice time.
Yeah, I think
cool.
We talked about that as a pillar back when we were on Core World News. It was Master and Apprentice, and I think that's something that Filoni appreciates. Like, more than anyone, I think Filoni wants to check all those pillars off. Like, he's like, this isn't a Star Wars until we do these 11 things, and he's doing all of it. It's a lot though. I just, for the show and for Kevin Kiner, I want them to settle into a style. Like, it feels a little patchwork, like they're trying to do everything everywhere all at once. But which is cool. Like, I mean, I'm feeling them all, but it's like it still needs to be its own show. And whereas Andor was super stylized, like that's the extreme of stylization probably. I want this show, I think it would elevate it a little bit if they were like, all right, what's the real overall feel of what we're doing?
I think this might be where Filoni's relative lack of experience in live action might be showing off a little more. I think he's a wonderful director, and I think he's really good. And we talked before about letting a scene breathe, which I think so many directors forget to do nowadays. I'm glad he's doing that. But I feel like part of it might be that he's still himself trying to figure out tone, right? Like figuring out what his tone as a director is and what as a showrunner is. I think it'll get there. I think now that we're off to the races, like these two episodes, that's the other thing I was talking with Carly is so much happened in these episodes, but we're getting a very linear, clear story. We're chasing a MacGuffin, right? Like that's all we're doing, really. We're just, and so I think now that we have that, is hopefully we'll settle into a tone.
What is the show?
Yeah, I do admire the setting up of two, duos, right? The Baylan Skull and Shin Hati, and then the Ahsoka and Sabine, because that's a new formula. I love the idea of two sort of mentorships going, fighting each other basically, and seeing, which duo does better is that's going to be fun to watch as a Star Wars story. Because I think a lot of the times it's one master and apprentice, and then evil Dark Lord, or it's one Sith Lord they have to fight. It's never you never do duo v duo. It's cool.
And have cross cutting between those two lightsaber duels will be fascinating.
Yeah,
right?
that'll be cool.
And very Lucasian. Yeah,
and it might be very smart to do that as a Star Wars story. Just given that we haven't really had that yet. So I guess you get it in the Phantom Menace to an extent, but I think it just I guess in all three prequels to an extent, you are getting the dark side master and apprentice relationships that are constantly being hinted at. But I like it just how much time we're spending with Baylan Skull and Shin.
Yeah,
I think that's what's interesting.
We've had just as much time between Sidious and Maul in that movie than we did in these 2 episodes of this one series. There's still 6 episodes to go, right?
That's
what's cool.
Yeah, actually more. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah, really fun. I mean, we could start pontificating. I wonder how they're actually going to get out there. It's hard to believe they're stowing away on the eye. If they, it seems like you need a lot of hyperdrive capability to get out there, and you can't just whip that up out of nowhere. Unless maybe they appeal to the New Republic, but I can't imagine them doing that for a whim. But maybe.
Right.
I mean, it could open up more into like, the Galactic or the New Republic military, and we meet Leia and Mon Mothma, or Admiral Akbar or something. And they're like, yeah, we're going to, we have this ship that we've been working on or something, but I don't see that happening. I think they're going to try and DIY it. But the other opportunity could be the World Between Worlds, which I think is sealed off at this point, and I don't think, and it's buried under 1 million pounds of
I mean,
sand.
that entrance is right. Like, it seems like there's multiple entrance points, so they could technically find another one, but like
maybe that might be the only entrance to it.
Are Sabine and Ahsoka not going to hitch a ride on that?
I think they're going to hitch a ride on the
I think that's the number one biggest possibility, because they're heading to that plant, to the system of Deneb. And the Cetos inflection point, but reflect point. But
it's also a star. You can almost make it a pillar.
Yeah.
You can almost make it a pillar of Star Wars, an infiltration of a base.
Yeah.
Right. And also, if we're talking about samurai film, and we're talking about Kurosawa, the infiltration of a base is there. Right.
Hidden fortress. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right on.
Right. We're definitely going to go though, right, to this new galaxy.
Yeah. How can you?
I think so.
Say there's a new
I think
galaxy?
so. I don't think we're going to spend a lot of time there. I don't think we're going to do a lot of exploring there, but I think we'll land on a planet in this new galaxy.
Wait, so the planet from the Heir to the Empire trilogy where the Ysalamari are, it's not. Is it the same? It's not the same planet. It's a different planet than where Mount Tantus is.
It's a different. It's not Wayland. Yeah, I can't remember what it is, but it's different. So it could be right. We could get that.
What if they just repurpose that planet and sort of like
throw it out in the other galaxy? And
that's the way Thrawn has the edge on Ezra. There's creatures there that negate the Force, and that's an angle I haven't seen yet. Is honestly we have a lot of the sort of the nameless or whatever it's called in the High Republic.
Dude,
we have that creature. We have like all that stuff going on.
Right.
But it's like I haven't seen like negate creatures that negate the Force, and sort of like, and that's Ezra's whole deal is like connecting with creatures. Yeah. And I was like, oh, this is a way to bring in that creature, basically the creatures that the highlight of the Heir to the Empire trilogy. That like, why not have Ezra connect? But like when he connects with them, it negates his Force, and maybe there's an interesting dynamic that happens there. Like, to me, that's cool. Like, to me, if they repurpose that planet and put that in that other galaxy, that would be a cool idea, because then that's where that thing that's always around Thrawn's neck is, because he's obviously grown close to that creature.
Yeah. I'm going to take that a step further and suggest maybe the Star Wars galaxy is the only galaxy that has the Force. And the reason why the Force is weaker in the unknown regions is it's like further away from the core. For the chiss, like where it sort of wears off when you turn 13. So I think when they go to this new galaxy, there'll be no Force at all.
Just cut off from the Force.
They're totally cut off from the Force. Yeah. And then because that makes sense with Sabine, it's like suddenly her training and her Mandalorian armor makes her a lot more valuable, and it's a level playing field for all of them.
Yeah.
It also makes sense. Yeah. Makes sense why Ezra would be stuck out there. He wouldn't have the Force to rely on.
Right. Yeah, and then Ahsoka's still really powerful, having been a general or a commander in the army.
Yeah. And if they did do a thing where it's suddenly there's a galactic war, they could do the same. The most scary part of the Yuuzhan Vong is that they're immune to the Force. If they were infiltrated by a species outside of it.
Yeah, they're just dead spots in the Force. You can't even feel them.
Right.
You can't even see them. Yeah, well, until Jason Solo figures it out.
Yeah. Right. They've definitely set up Sabine to sort of like get good and beat Shin Hati.
Yes.
Right? Sort of set up, right? Like, that's like completely the.
There'll be another draw, and then there'll be a successful. That's my guess.
Yeah, I do wonder if this is honestly. I think back to Rebels, and I think back to the Loth Wolves in season 4, and I think about Filoni, and I think about what he might do, sort of like with animals or with creatures in the storyline, and obviously Loth Cats. He really hangs on the shots of the Loth Cats. He's really explorative when it comes to the creatures that are inhabit the world, and so
like
I love
Force
that.
creatures like the Bendu, right? Like we had the Bendu, and then like we almost got something like that in episode 9 with the Eye of the Webbish Bog. I want to start a petition to give us the Eye of the Webbish Bog, please. But like I want to make a theory that might play into that. Yeah, go for it, because I wouldn't be surprised if you did something like that. Yeah, go for it.
Well, firstly, what was your guys' read on the Loth Wolf in Rebels? Like, did you guys have like a I know it's kind of a broad sort of mystical, spiritual sort of part of the story. But it's like, did you guys think that wolf resembled anything or symbolized anything?
I mean, again, I'm going to give you the boring reception to it, where it's like, I think Filoni really tried to stay with the sort of mysticism and sorcery, vague mysticism that surround wolves. And so even when it was there was a wolf called Doom, and Doom even sort of spoke to Ezra and told him the things he needed to know, it wasn't really Caleb Doom, aka Kanan Jarrus, in that wolf speaking to him like a Force ghost, but it was his spirit, vague spirit, was in that, created the wolf to communicate.
So can I push back on that a little bit?
That's just my read on
present another, not even push back on it. I love that idea. I think that's actually my general idea for a long time. And then I thought about it, and I think I rewatched that episode a year ago, and I was like, is the wolf Kanan's master? Is it Deepa B'Elanna? Is that is she the one who keeps saying doom and keeps protecting him, guiding his friends to safety? And his reincarnation, is the Maz Kanata line not a throwaway thing? Or do you see the same eyes?
Yeah,
is there something going on? Is Snoke's eyes connected to Luke Skywalker? There's so much stuff I look at all the time as being my type of fan, which is I need this weird. If I need the cloning stuff connects, I need it to connect. If this reincarnation stuff, I need it to connect. I need some of the spiritual and dark science stuff to kind of have an overwhelming quality to it. And part of that to me would be I always thought, given the scene we see in Bad Batch, given we see how much Deepa B'Elanna cared for Caleb Doom and not Kanan Jarrus. And the wolf keeps saying doom. And then I think the first time that Princess Mononoke shot of seeing the wolf pass by and guide Ezra to safety, its eyes are the same deep brown as Deepa B'Elanna, whereas later on the big yellow Sith-like pupil that's weird, and it's doesn't look the same after that. But that first time, I urge people to go back and look at that. That's sort of stuff that I look for, and I'm hoping that there is a deeper spiritual.
And I love that. And I think it's also, now I'm going to take your deeply spiritual read on it and layer on top of it.
Midichlorians?
No, layer on top of it canon necessities. Because here's the thing. We have set up very specific rules about Force Ghosts in the Star Wars universe for some reason. Right, where basically you have to learn how to do it, and only a few people have taught people.
And you couldn't do Force Ghosts in that storyline because they
happened before.
Right, but you could do speaking through animals or slight reincarnation. This is how you get around these things, right? So
Yeah, but I mean that it just makes sense because that's the organic Force ghost, right? Because there's organic Sith ghosts somehow too, or is there organic as they can be?
What do they call them? Phantoms? No, wraiths.
Wraiths.
That's what it is. Sith wraiths.
And they sort of haunt an area, which I love that. And,
me too. I really wanted that in episode 9. I wanted the haunted Death Star, but whatever.
You kind of get it with the Convor, when the daughter dies, she sort of, her spirit sort of inhabits the Convor and helps them. So it's it's not hey, Caleb Doom, it's your master. It's just sort of I'm still an animal, but my spirit's in here, and it's still
it's doing what I've always done, is protect and guide you. Yeah. To me, I was it's a perfect fit. I don't know if that's a theory that's out there or not, but it's to me, I was just watching that and watching the Bad Batch intro again. I was oh my goodness,
I think it works.
The wolf, getting there's a deep connection between the wolf and her.
Even if he's not doing exactly that, which I think he is, he's doing something similar enough where it's a light enough hand where it's
right. Yeah, and it can be totally sort of spiritual and
interpreted in a lot of ways.
It doesn't have to be.
That's what I think is key, right? It's exactly that. Is he's doing that. He's doing, again, very Lucasian, of just this can be read in multiple different ways. There's not a clear this is what happened, this is what happened. But I love
it's only in the scene where you first see it, I think.
But I love that interpretation, Grant, because I can't think of anything that would refute that, right? That says that is not possible, and because of that, I love that idea, because next time I watch that, that's 100% they're going to be in my head next time I watch it. And
tell me if I'm crazy or not. I might.
It adds depth. It adds a lot, and that's the way Star Wars works so beautifully, because you add these little things in, and you can build them out through the EU or through other storytelling, and it still all just works together.
The wolf was a big missing component for me. I was like, what is the wolf? I was like, thought about it for years, and then like I was like, I need something to like at least substantiate, what the wolf is, so the show makes more sense to me, because it can't be Caleb. It can't be like Kanan dies and becomes like a wolf. Somehow like psychically goes back into the wolf. Like that doesn't make any sense. So like I had to do some
I think it was a different wolf that came up to him then, but
that's true. Maybe it was.
I think. And then there was, and there like one wolf was one that was sort of gave the instructions.
Do we get a Loth Wolf in this show? Like I was always hoping that like a Loth Wolf was going to block Sabine, because I know in Rebels at one point I think Kanan's like driving down that same road.
Oh yeah,
and then a Loth is like right there,
just right there.
And then again, this is another. This just I think supports my theory that I was just like, it's trying to stop Kanan. It's trying to connect with Kanan. Like,
I mean, those wolves protect Lothal, and Lothal's in a good place. So I think we've moved on, and to sort of honor.
I think we're also
to honor what Meg Bell said is like, this is not going to be Rebels, even though we did.
Will Ezra get back to Lothal and give that cat some scritches?
Maybe at the end.
Force willing.
Nice. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking of Meg a lot when I was watching the beginning of it. I'm like, oh, Meg, I'm sorry, because it started really feeling like
it was Rebels season 5.
But let's go. Especially because we've gotten not as much of the titular characters I thought we would get, but I think we're moving towards that direction as it now that we've moved away from Lothal and Home One. I think we're going to have a lot of time with Ahsoka and Sabine.
Right.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Yeah, cool, man.
Can I play into my last theory?
I was about to shake you upside down, and so all your theories came out. So yes.
Okay, this is the final theory here.
No, I want them all. If there's more, bring them.
So in the way that the Loth Wolf operates in Rebels, could we get a creature that operates in a similar way that maybe is connected to Anakin or something? You know what I mean? Like Anakin doing some good
way to communicate to Ahsoka through
Ahsoka.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm stuck on Adams saying a Dathomirian witch is gonna like resurrect his body,
or his spirit,
right?
Spirit, like
to commune with the dead,
like the distractor in a way. But I don't know. I mean, he can come back as a Force ghost. We know that he's capable of doing that. He has in canon done it with Luke, and so we could just get it straight up.
Well, because when Shadow of the Sith, I think that book we read, Luke goes to has a Force vision where he's on Exegol.
Yeah.
And then
Anakin, he does
saves.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, and that was on a distant world, in a far off galaxy. Like we are now once again venturing to an ominous and distant place in a faraway galaxy. We know Anakin interacted in that fight against the Wraiths, and that obviously could have been a Force vision at the same time. I think it is supposed to be, but it's.
I desperately want that. We talked about how the half unmasking happened twice because it's such a good beat. And it kind of needed to be done, but I would love, we haven't seen Force Ghost Anakin, and yes, he didn't complete the training, and she mentioned that, so that leads me to believe she hasn't seen Force Ghost Anakin yet. But she has had her confrontation with Darth Vader and him there. Yep. But maybe she's in a tough place, and
she needs catharsis with Anakin.
She does.
That'd be an amazing scene.
I think she does.
I think that's the last thing blocking
Luke
her.
Got it.
Really, is working through, and I think at that point you get Omega level, Ahsoka, true Jedi Master Ahsoka. That's gonna make her
maybe Anakin comes back and says the Jedi were not wrong. I was to her.
Yeah,
and reinvigorates her. Connection to the Jedi.
The Jedi were wrong is the thing.
That's the thing.
I mean, they were. And again, I think this is the biggest flaw in Star Wars is that their most heroic band of peace, keepers are basically thought of as asinine for their decision making and and their dogmatic rules. And it's again, I wouldn't be surprised if in long term Star Wars does something to remedy that. Yeah. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if that's a big long term initiative is let's actually restore the idea that the Jedi actually knew what they were talking about. And they were only clouded by the darkness because the light side they were keeping together was so fragile, and they're so it's so difficult.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, something that sort of shows that they were right in a lot of ways, because again, the argument you're making is like the argument, I'm like 1 against 1,000,000 in terms of that argument. That's like that is the common, like, the Jedi did not know what they were doing, and they were not thought of as just lawful good, right? They were thought of as kind of like chaotic good, or like, I don't know. There's bad masters. There was
chaotic neutral even.
They didn't free people. They didn't free slaves. Like, there's so.
I think we're showed
so many
20 years of a 25,000 year history, like, and the 20 years at the end of it. So it's hard to not think of them that way. And I think that's why we need things like Dawn of the Jedi and the New Jedi Order and things like that to show us the true potential of the Jedi.
New stuff might do.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Is be like, you remember Jedi and how heroic and awesome they are, and why Luke. What do you think Luke's idea of the Jedi was during his evolution? To me, I think he's thought of them as like his source of inspiration, his like singular source of inspiration for everything he did. And it was like, and what did that do? It saved the galaxy.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know what else to say other than like
he tried to embody what Yoda and Obi-Wan Kenobi would have wanted from him, based on very few lessons and avoiding his father's pitfall, and that was enough. You're right.
Yeah, that was enough.
Yeah.
Just trying to emulate the doctrine in whatever way he could. He saved the galaxy.
I love that, Grant. That makes a lot of sense, because it preserves it, rather than just being like having, Ahsoka go the full Qui-Gon path and just be like, the Jedi were all wrong, I have it right, I need to restart. Like, she's just sort of like, no, what are the like lessons I can actually take? And I mean, I think that scene could happen, man. I think he could just be like, listen, I wasn't the teacher I should have been for you, and I was in a dark.
I think that's neat.
And I'd love that confirmation of like, he was really gone to the dark side in Attack of the Clones, and I've said this a million times. It's not new stuff, but
agreed.
Like, you can tell by his lightsaber, by the way, it's pretty much Darth Vader's lightsaber with like a silver, like, by the hilt, you can tell right there. But and then like, and so he could own some of that and just be like, no, I was, you were the greatest, but I had plenty of faults, some humility of Anakin finally.
I mean, don't judge my mistakes, or don't judge the Jedi by my mistakes. Yeah. Right. Like, and that's the thing. Like, I mean, she only ever had a dark side master in a lot of ways, which is wild to think about. And that's the other thing that he could tell her, right, is like, I had already fallen by the time you found me, and yet you were this bastion of good. Like, what does that say of you? That like, out of me came you, is like how can you be this good, being trained by a fallen Jedi?
This is why I mentioned that early, is I really feel like she was trying to emulate Obi-Wan and not her master. Like, it was like, if you watch those first scenes, like in the T6 shuttle, she's like, where she's interacting with Hu Yang for the first time. It's very Obi-Wan Kenobi to me, like circa episode, Clone Wars or episode 3. And if she's like, that's probably something she's dealing with, where she's, you're right, like, she's beating herself up. She's like, my master was the worst. He was like supposed to be the chosen one and fell. And like, I can't be like him. I don't trust the Jedi. I mean, but I'd trust Obi-Wan because he's awesome.
Yeah. but that's interesting, like, because she has like two things of guilt going on at once, possibly, or two feelings that could be negatively impacting her. The first is like, well, I was trained by this person, so it must be inside me too. Right, like that the genetics is destiny type of feeling that some people have. The other thing is just like, also, I was so close to this and I never saw him falling, right, and couldn't help him. So like, not only am I tainted by this, but I also didn't save him, right? So it's a rough path.
Yeah, right. If she was still with him or still in the Order, she could have helped guide him along the right path, right?
Yeah.
I mean, great moves by the Emperor there to make that happen. I'm sure, even if it's not true, I'm sure he's taking credit for it. All right, I think we've got this, guys. Anything else that once I hit stop that you want to talk about that you're not going to talk about now?
No, I think it's everything. I really don't have anything else, like
final theories.
I got nothing.
There's nothing.
Yeah. I don't. I just think it's going to go in a lot of wacky ways. You guys have given me some clarity. I'm definitely seeing lack of the Force. Maybe galaxy on galaxy battle coming down the pipeline. I think those would be exciting, or possible. I'm not really sure, and I'm still hanging on to my flashback theory, because there's a lot of Ahsoka story that we don't have right now, that I think
There is, yeah.
very interesting. But you can't cover 10 years of Ahsoka in an 8-episode series that's trying to move forward. So,
What if Ahsoka goes back in time and becomes the first Jedi?
there it is. There's
that's a pretty big. Yeah, I got nothing to top that. That's the end right there.
Yeah, she's like almost there, and then just gets sucked out of the story, and she's like, "Oh, yeah,
So close. I'll try again." Yeah.
Oh man, that'd be wild.
Anyways, I think we did it though. I don't think there's much else.
Well,
yeah, that's it.
So this is coming out on Monday. You'll be able to watch episode 3 tomorrow, I guess, if you're listening to this.
Yeah, Tuesday night. They're sticking with that 9:00 Eastern Standard Time.
I'm loving that.
Yeah, premiere.
Yeah,
Me too.
Yeah, you get it in prime time on a Tuesday. That's really nice.
Yeah,
we might have to rethink when we're going to release episodes for this, though, because I feel like we're the last people to talk about these episodes.
We're a catch-all.
Yeah,
we are.
We'll see. Yeah,
but all right, awesome. Well, everyone, you've been great for listening and/or watching us. We really appreciate it. Super fun. We will see you next week. I suppose next Monday, if not sooner. Talking about Ahsoka episode 3.
Yeah.
So we'll see you then for another episode of
Cantina Chronicles.